Hello, I'm in the airport waiting to come home after 5 days of mindshare. What a completely mind-blowing, heart-opening event. Every year I always end up getting triggered coming. A little bit of backstory. Growing up, living in a trailer park, being on welfare, somehow we had horses. I have no idea how kids on welfare and in a trailer park has horses, but we did. And I used to show. And I used to show against kids who were rich, who could afford real houses and horses. So I was always that odd man out. I was always that person that I felt like I was outside looking in, right? Fast forward now to adult. Earlier this year I filed bankruptcy, off and on welfare. And I'm a coach hanging out with doctors. Right? I in my head, the story was, I don't know very many poor kids who go to medical school. Typically, it is kids that come from a more affluent background who do that. So I got really, really triggered one night, and I was like, that's it, I'm not coming back. I don't belong here. I don't see my story here. That's what I kept saying. I don't see my story here. I don't belong here. I'm not coming back. And that was the night that I said we need to lean into our triggers. So I didn't, make any haste or rash decisions that night. And then the next day, God was like, "Oh, you didn't see your story here." In walk Lisa Nichols. If you don't know who she is, I highly recommend looking her up. She's one of the coolest motivational speakers I've ever seen, and I've been following her for a really long time. Actually, one of her podcasts kind of helped save my marriage. So she talks about how she was a single mom on welfare, kind of in the ghetto, eating her beanies and weenies. And I just bawled, and I just ugly cried for 2.5 hours straight while she spoke. The story I was making up. So after I got up in front of the room and said that to everybody, because we were talking, that was the theme that morning. JJ Virgin was talking about how she never felt like she belonged. And I got up and I shared that. And then afterwards I was like, what the fuck? Did I really just get up in front of that whole room full of people? People like Dave Asprey and some of my heroes, and admit this? I feel like I'm gonna puke. And then, like I said, then Lisa Nichols came on, and then I just cried for hours. But it's usually the story we're making up, right? Nobody else in that room was looking at me and going, "You don't belong." And I was talking about imposter syndrome, and there was a person there saying, "How can it be imposter syndrome? You're already in the room," right? So meaning if you're already in the room, you're there because you are meant to be there. You belong there. So for the longest time, anytime I would get triggered about shit, I would run. I'd go the other direction, and it would make my life very small, right? It got very small. And now I'm going to lean into my triggers, because that's where the gold is. And I just, after that, the magic that happened. So Warren Phillips, freaking non-toxic dad, who's been one of my biggest heroes for the past 6 months, at the pool party, ended up giving me a token that he gave to another person the year before. And she framed it, and she ended up popping her business going crazy. And then he ended up giving me a similar token for me to take home and frame. So this next year is going to be different for me, different from my business, and I'm going to be able to serve people in a whole new way. I do belong. You belong. Stop telling the story. That's all it is. It's a story. Start writing a new one. You have that power. I have that power. We all have that power. Words matter. Words have power. Words have weight. Watch what's coming out your mouth. Love yourself. Make sure to have a healthy day.